Greetings my cousins, cake making time, or rather should I say gâteau making. Now I came across an Irish cookery school, the Ballymaloe, and they had a book, and that book was quite expensive, and I kept fancying giving it a go, and then it got reduced, the Kindle version got reduced really cheap, so I thought, bugger it, I'm going to buy it. And I have to say, it's another one of those cookbooks packed full of some pretty damn good recipes. And one that immediately took my eye was this Gâteau one. It's also listed on their website, the hotel they run. They call it something slightly different, but it is exactly the same recipe. Okay, so we're going to make that today. Now, it's going to use a lot of bowls, only simply because we're whisking egg whites, we're melting chocolate, we want somewhere to cream the butter and everything, and also because I'm using a lot of these little bowls where I'm measuring my stuff out. So we're going to make the Ballymaloe chocolate almond gâteau. Got ready prepared 110 grams of really nice, good quality dark chocolate, and that's just set over a pan of boiling water. We're just melting that down. I've got 3 eggs that I've separated. I've got the whites in one bowl, which we're going to whisk up. I've got the yolks in another. You're going to want some, well, she says good quality red rum. But I've just got a bottle of cheap dark rum. Okay, and we're going to want some of that. There's some goes in the cake, there's some goes in the icing. So what goes in the cake, mostly alcohol, well the alcohol will boil off, but there will be a little bit in the icing. You're going to want some butter. I've got some softened unsalted butter. For the cake, 110 grams. I've got the same amount of castor sugar, 110 grams. I've got plain white flour, 55 grams. And then I've got 55 grams of blanched almonds. Now I didn't quite have enough, so I tossed in some bits of flaked almonds that I had, and the reason I'm doing that is because we're going to put that into the blender. And you could use almond flour, and I was going to, and then I thought, the whisk just moved off camera. I was going to use almond flour, and she says you can do, but I had these blanched almonds left over from something else, and what she says, you want to put them in your food processor and grind them. You want them basically being a little bit gritty. You don't want it too fine. And equally, when I looked at one of the pictures of the slices cake, you can see small pieces of almond in it. So we're just going to grind that up. So that's 55 grams. 55 grams of these whole almonds. Right, now I had previously put some boiling water into this pan. And as usual, you don't want the bowl going into the water, just on top. So it has started to melt slightly, and then you want to put it on a very low heat. And we can add, see it make this boil it, 2 tablespoons of this rum to the butter mixture. We're going to be needing that later. Okay, so we're just going to let that melt together, and we might give it a little stir. There's my little one. There's my little one. There's the actual centre of it. Okay, and we just want to gently melt all that chocolate and rum together, and then we'll put it to one side to cool slightly. Now, the next thing we want to do, and this is where I'll start to struggle with bowls, is, you want to put your oven on at 180 degrees Celsius. Now this is where I noticed a difference between the recipe she gave in the book and the recipe she gave in the hotel. They were both down for 350 Fahrenheit, but the one in the book said that's equivalent, I think, well, whichever way round it was, it said it was, well, the book one was 180 Celsius, and in the hotel one online it said 160. Now I don't know whether because one's a fan oven or not, So I'm going to set my oven at about 170 in between, because I suspect the 160 might be for fan, and I'm having cookies on the fan. So you need to get your thing up. You want your oven up. You want some 8-inch sandwich tins, which I've buttered and floured. You want 2 of those. We're basically making a sandwich cake. It's interesting how now I've added that rum, that chocolate is splitting slightly, which is why you don't put water in your chocolate. Or get water away from the chocolate, otherwise it splits. So I'm not too worried about that, obviously, because it's all going in the cake. So that's almost all melted together, and like I said, I'll be taking that for the heat. So now what we're going to do now is cream our butter and sugar together. Run out of glass bowls, so into that one I'm going to put my butter and my castor sugar, and then we're going to beat the two together till pale and fluffy. So that's that nicely creamed together. So now we're going to take our egg yolks and attempt to add them one at a time. Unfortunately one of mine's split, so I've got a feeling 2 going in there. We're now just going to beat them in one at a time until they're all mixed together. So now I've got my egg whites in here, and I'm just going to add a little pinch of salt, and we're going to start whisking them together until they've started stiffening up. At which point I'm going to add a tablespoon of castor sugar, and then we're just going to keep whisking it until we're getting stiff peaks. Now you could, if you want, use electric whisk. That's up to you. I decided to do it by hand. So by that stage, we're then, once this is done, we'll be ready to start assembling it all together. Now remember, we're using plain flour in this. And so the air for this, I mean, it's quite a dense-ish gâteau, but obviously all the air that's going to be in it is going to be from these whisked egg whites, which we're starting to get to the stiff stage, as I've said to the bishop. And of course, I've picked another day to make something like a chocolate gâteau, where things are going to get a bit melty when it's the beginning of a heat wave here. So almost there with that, so I'll get that put to one side, and then we're going to start, like I say, building all the cake. Right, so I'm just going to take that melted chocolate, and we're going to add that to our mixed up butter, and we're also going to be tipping into that at this stage, once I've given this a bit of an initial mix together. Our almond that we ground up. So straight away this is starting to look that nice deep rich chocolate colour. And you need to be a little bit careful the chocolate mixture isn't too hot, because it does start making this a bit runny. In goes them almonds. And like I say, it's going to give it a little bit of a grainy texture to it, which is apparently what you want. So it's quite a pale colour at the moment, palish chocolate. And that should darken up once we get that in the cooker. Now this makes it is a very rich cake. You only want small amounts at a time, and she says basically it can last a while if you can leave it that long. Apparently it's quite nice with an espresso. But anyway, that's that beaten in. So this is where now we're going to start blending in that plain flour and these egg whites. So we take about a quarter of those egg whites, and we take about a quarter of that flour, and we now try not to knock too much of that air out. So we're just sort of gently folding that through. You can perhaps be a little bit rougher with this first quarter, just simply to get it loosened up, and then we're just going to gradually add it in little by little until we've got it all folded together. So this is now where we want to split it into the two dishes. Okay. Perhaps a little bit extra in that one, not sure. You could, I suppose, if you want to weigh everything beforehand, do it by weight. And then what you want to do is spread it out, but what she suggests, and it's not very... Right, that's those both in there. I've tried to create a little bit of a dent in the middle, but it's not really working that well. We're now going to put that into that preheated oven. I can do this on 2 shelves, so I might swap it round. She's saying from anything from 18 to 25 minutes, so I've set my timer for 18 minutes, and obviously I'll check on it, and then once they're done, we're going to bring them out and let them cool slightly in a tin before we turn them out onto wire rack. Now, we're going to make the icing, but we're not going to start that yet because we need to wait until the cakes are cool before we can do the icing. Okay, so let's see what it turns out like. Right, our cakes are out. You can see they did rise a little bit more than this, but they have flattened off. So the 2 thin layers there turned out nice and easily. Slightly warm still, but we're going to start our icing. Now, just like before, I'm going to melt 110 grams of that same dark chocolate over a low heat, and just like before, we're also going to add 2 tablespoons of this dark rum. 1, 2. Now I've got some more butter, unsalted, 110 grams of that. So we've got 110 grams of dark chocolate, 110 grams of butter, 2 tablespoons of what's name? Rum. And so we're now just going to, just like before, we're going to melt a smaller spatula. That's a little spatula. There it is. I might be a bit on the big side. We're just going to melt these 2 together, and then we're gradually going to beat in that butter, sort of about a tablespoon at a time, until it's all incorporated. Now, we might want to use a whisk, so I've got my whisk ready. We'll see how we get on, but we want it into a nice spreading consistency. Now, if it starts getting sort of too runny, which I suspect it will be in this heat, we just put it into the fridge to stiffen up a bit, and we whisk it up again some more so that we've got it in a spreading consistency, because we're going to want to spread just about 1/3 in the middle between the 2 layers, and then we're going to use the other third, a second third, to coat the cake, we can use a little bit more than a third if you like. And with the remaining, we can do some piped bit on top, where we can also add some almonds. But we'll wait and see what it comes like when we come to, you know, finish off covering the cake. Now I've just added that last bit of butter and it has become much more liquid. So once I've beaten this in, I'm going to put this in the fridge for a little while, just to letting it solidify a little bit, because it's a bit more than spreading consistency at the moment. It's a bit more like pouring. So I've got a piping bag ready with a little like star nozzle, just in case, and I've got some almonds. Now she uses flaked almonds and crystallised violets. I haven't got any crystallised violets, and I haven't really got any really decent bits of flaked almond, so I'm actually going to, if I get to that stage where I've got enough to pipe on top, I'm going to use some whole blanched almonds. So I think just about blended in all that butter, so I'm just going to need to let that solidify for a bit. Okay, so that's stiffened up enough at the moment, I think. Unfortunately my cake boards I've got are all massive, and it's quite a small one, so I'm going to utilise this plate. Okay, you might notice I've got the plate upside down. Anyway, we want to take about a third. I'm not sure there's going to be an awful lot here for piping, but because if you consider how much is in there. Interestingly, again there was another little bit of a confusion between the two different recipes, because in one she says 8-inch and one she says 7-inch. The one that seemed to be the most accurate went for the 8-inch, and I went for 8-inch, and I'm wondering if I'd put them in 7-inch whether I might have got a bit of a better rise. Anyway, that's that one there. Whoops. And now I'm just going to put the other layer on top of there. And again, we're not too worried about it splitting out the sides, because remember what we want to do next is coat the top and the sides in this icing. Now, like I said, I strongly suspect there's going to be nowhere near enough here. Right, so what I'm going to do now is decorate it. I'm going to take some whole blanched almonds, and I'm just going to run them round the edge of the cake, and I'm going to try and set it so that we get, how many will I get? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think if I'm careful, I can get 12 on here. So effectively we can get 12 slices, and I've accidentally done there is get some chocolate on top of that one, so I might try and remove that one and tidy it up. There we have our finished gâteau. So I'm going to let this well, perhaps I won't. I was going to say I was going to let this set a little bit in the fridge. I might do just for a little bit while I just have a clean up. Oops, just stuck my thumb in that bit. Might have to eat that side first, and then we'll have a taste. Cut a segment, complete with a almond. There we have. Let me get rid of that. So, you can see the nutty texture. I don't know whether that sounds sharp on there. You can see the little bits of nut there, the bigger bits, if you like, where I didn't grind it that much. And let's have a little taster then. It's nutty, very chocolatey. Do get the rum, not a huge hit, but remember 2 tablespoons went in the cake, 2 tablespoons in the icing. There won't be much alcohol in it because the cake one will have gone. It's not a very moist cake, but I don't know if it's meant to be. She did say don't overcook it. And if anything, leave it a little bit underdone in the middle. I think this was cooked like you would normally cook a cake. By the time I tested it, after 18 minutes, it was dry in the centre, it weren't moist. So perhaps next time it could do with a little less time cooking, but but if you like chocolate, that's the thing to make.